after winning the league, Liverpool aren't just having a bad run. No, this is a complete catastrophic freefall. So how did the champions fall so far so fast? Today, we're opening up the case file, we're going to follow the clues, and figure out what has gone so terribly wrong at Anfield. And here's the central mystery, right? We've seen this movie before. For any Liverpool fan, this season must feel like a horrifying sequel to the collapse they went through back in 2020-21, which was the last time they had to defend a league title. The vibe, the results, that feeling of dread, it's all just eerily familiar. And the parallels are, frankly, spooky. Back in 2020-21, the big alarm bell was that shocking 7-2 thrashing by Aston Villa. This season, it's somehow even worse. 6 losses in the first 12 matches, capped off by a humiliating defeat to Nottingham Forest. That's the moment everyone knew this wasn't a slow start. It was a full-blown crisis. So where do we even start looking for answers? Well, our investigation kicks off with our first major clue, the transfer market. This is a story of massive, massive spending that somehow managed to create way more problems than it solved. You know, to really get Liverpool's transfer problems, you have to understand the Andy Carroll syndrome. Yeah, it's a real thing. It's named after the striker they signed way back in 2011 to replace Fernando Torres. And he pretty much became the poster boy for big money flops. And now it seems like the whole new batch of signings has come down with a bad case of it. I mean, on paper, these signings were brilliant. You start with Alexander Isak, a proven Premier League goal scorer, a guy who hit over 20 goals 2 seasons in a row. He should have been a perfect fit. Then you've got Florian Wirtz. Seriously, one of the brightest young talents on the planet. Just look at those numbers in Germany. Almost 70 goal contributions in 2 seasons. This is a player who should have completely transformed their midfield. And if that wasn't enough, there's Hugo Ekitike, another forward coming off a monster season with 22 goals and 12 assists. See, these weren't gambles. These were proven, elite-level players being dropped into a team that just won the league. So you have to ask, what on earth went wrong? How do you get so many top-tier players to show up at your club and suddenly forget how to play football? Is it the tactics? Are they just not fitting in? Or is the pressure just too much? The mystery here points to something much, much deeper going on at the club. Because while Liverpool was splashing all that cash on shiny new attackers, they were creating these huge, gaping holes everywhere else. To pay for it all, they sold their best winger, Luis Diaz, and just didn't replace him. Then, a deal for center-back Marc Guéhi completely falls apart at the last second, leaving the defense incredibly thin and a guy like Ibrahima Konate totally exposed. The squad was just a mess, completely unbalanced. All right, clue number 2 takes us away from the transfer market and straight into the dressing room, where we find a team that is just breaking down, both physically and, crucially, mentally. And here's the really ironic part. The team had what should have been the perfect preseason. No exhausting summer tournaments, no Club World Cup to travel for. They even brought in a new performance expert to get everyone in peak shape. And what was the result? An absolute epidemic of muscle injuries all across the squad. It makes no sense. And that physical fragility, that constant worry about getting injured, it's completely poisoned the team's mentality. When you can't trust your own body, you can't perform. It's created this brittleness on the pitch. They just can't seem to dig in when things get tough. And the result of that weakness is this one, staggering statistic: 0. That is the number of points Liverpool have won after going behind in a match this season. 0. Once they concede the first goal, it's game over. They just crumble. Now hold on. Compare that to last season. 23. That's how many points they won from losing positions. This was the same team with the same manager. They were the best in the entire league at coming from behind. They were called the mentality monsters. That entire identity has just evaporated. This mental collapse has gotten so obvious, so painful to watch, that it's actually broken that sacred bond with the fans. Reporters at Anfield noted that for the first time anyone could remember, the famous crowd was leaving early. They were abandoning the team's anthem, "You'll never walk alone." When the fans give up, you know it's bad. Okay, this leads us to our final on-field clue, and it really zeroes in on one man. The talisman, the legend, the one player who is always supposed to be untouchable in a crisis, Mohamed Salah. This chart tells you everything. Even during that last big crisis in 2020-21, when the whole team was a mess, Salah was still a superstar. He was still scoring goals, still dragging the team along. But this season, his light has just gone out. His contributions have fallen off a cliff. And the impact of that is just staggering. A normal, on-form Mohamed Salah guarantees you over 30 goals and assists a season. You just take that away, and you've basically ripped the entire engine out of the team's attack. It leaves a void that nobody else on that team can fill. Because for years, Salah wasn't just their best player. He was their savior. He was the get-out-of-jail-free card, the guy who would rescue them when things went bad. For any other player to lose form, it's a problem. For Salah to lose his form, it is a full-blown catastrophe with no obvious escape. So, let's lay out the evidence. We've got failed transfers, a totally imbalanced squad, physical breakdowns, a mental collapse, and a fallen superstar. All of these clues are now pointing in one single direction, and it's time for the verdict. When you follow the chain of command for every single one of these issues, all roads lead back to one man. The new signings aren't working out. The manager signed off on them and is responsible for getting them up to speed. The team isn't fit. The manager oversees the training staff. The mental weakness, the shocking decline of the star player. Ultimately, the buck stops with the manager, Arne Slot. And this table just lays out the case in the starkest terms possible. He was handed a title-winning team, and he has them languishing in mid-table. He was given a record-breaking transfer budget, and he ended up with a bunch of expensive flops and huge gaps in his squad. He started with the complete, total support of everyone, and now it looks like he's lost the players and the fans. And hey, if there was any doubt left, the final piece of evidence comes from the man himself. After that terrible loss to Nottingham Forest, he came out and said it publicly. I take full responsibility. It's basically a confession. It confirms everything all the clues have been pointing to. Which brings us to our final, nagging question. The trust of the fans is gone, the media is circling, and they have an absolutely brutal run of games coming up. So the investigation might be over, but the crisis is not. The real question now is, can Arne Slot possibly survive this?